Before we start, I have two things to clear up. First, my throat is sore, but I am powering through it. Second, I have to be clear about a definition. I'm using pop music to refer to popular music and not the genre we call pop. Anything could be popular music. Chop Suey by System of a Down charted on the Billboard Hot 100. But over the years, people have found consistent traits that can help create a popular song. Whether it's song structure, chord progressions, or lyrical topics, every era has had its own set of standards. Something that's consistently fallen outside these standards, however, is Broadway. Only a handful of Broadway songs have ever charted on Billboard. They run on their own rules, and those rules tend to fall far outside what we consider appropriate for popular music. Broadway songs like to eschew traditional song structure in order to tell a story in a unique way. For example, Broadway likes to use refrains. While a refrain and a chorus are often synonymous terms, I like to use them to refer to different things, as does Wikipedia. A refrain, in this case, is a word or phrase that's repeated, as opposed to a chorus, which is a whole stanza. Put a pin in that. Broadway songs also tend to be incredibly dynamic in order to portray emotion, with the singer's voices hitting a wide range of notes and volumes. These aspects make it difficult for Broadway songs to have the same widespread appeal that a pop song would. In the modern day, only mega-popular shows like Hamilton have achieved the same mainstream success that a pop artist might. Disney has been an exception for decades. The average person on the street will very likely be able to sing at least a few bars from a Disney song. Still, Disney songs are hardly considered pop. At least, they weren't for a long time. Starting with The Little Mermaid, Disney musicals have largely been built around the Broadway structure. When characters hit an emotional point or a scene that needs to be set, a song comes in. These songs serve as the tentpoles of the story. That's why Disney used to hire musical theater singers, composers, and lyricists to produce their songs. Howard Ashman, the lyricist who worked on the first 3 films of the Disney Renaissance, had a pretty strong say in the concept of the movies.
Music, for me anyway, is information. It's a way to get character and plot information across. So you want music to be information. You want it to develop story or character in some way, so the song will carry its own weight and justify its existence in the film.
Disney was set on the Broadway format, and it's brought them massive success. In the past 10 years, though, something has changed about Disney songs. To me, Encanto songs didn't feel like Broadway music as much as the songs in The Little Mermaid or Lion King did. Why is that? They had their Broadway lyricists, and their songs were hugely successful, with one of them even going to #1 on Billboard. What's changed? And when did the change begin? Let's start with looking at Surface Pressure. Surface Pressure was one of 2 songs from Encanto to chart year-end in the United States. It's a character theme for Luisa, where she details the anxiety she deals with as the strong one in the community. Take a look at the song structure. Intro, verse 1, chorus, not a refrain, verse 2, bridge, chorus. It's a bit unconventional with the bridge sandwiched where a pre-chorus should be, but that's still basically a pop song. Just listen to this instrumentation.
I feel berserk as a tightrope walker in a 3-ring circus.
Not only is it notably modern, it also has an anti-chorus. An anti-chorus is when the chorus of a song is less musically or lyrically complex than the verses.
That breaks the camel's back, what breaks the camel's back? It's pressure like a drip, drip, drip that'll never...
This was popularized in the mid-2010s, especially in the form of drops. Think songs like Attention by Charlie Puth or It Ain't Me by Kygo. These songs have a big build-up, and then when the chorus or drop is supposed to come in, it becomes minimal. Surface Pressure does the same thing. The second verse sounds the same as the first verse, and the 2 choruses are also not particularly distinct for one another, besides the second half of the second chorus being slightly more bombastic.
But under the surface, I feel berserk as a tightrope walker in a 3-ring circuit. Hurt us under the surface, the ship doesn't swerve as it hurt how big the iceberg.
Further, the way it builds up the story of the song isn't by differentiating the verses or choruses, but by adding in a bridge, another common pop song move.
Pleasure, instead we measure the scroll.
Lyrically, it also doesn't feel like it's telling a story the same way a musical number does. It's more repeating the same sentiment rather than exploring an idea or emotion. This works well for a song that's meant to be more universally relatable, like a pop song should be. And it did work. Surface Pressure has been lauded by many for how relatable it is, which is great for the charts, but less so for telling a story. What do we really learn about Luisa as a character other than the fact she's under a lot of pressure and dislikes it? There's a lot of directions you could go from that basic observation, but the song doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't help that this is the first time in the movie that Luisa ever mentions her struggles. It doesn't work as a character song, it works as a pop song. You could even see it in the visuals, which are more like a music video than a set piece in a Broadway production. They're more focused on metaphor and use plenty of transitions. There's little cohesiveness in what we're actually seeing because it's more focused on capturing a singular emotion and showing off what the animators can do. I'm not going to bash the song because a lot of people love it, but there's something to be said about how it works or doesn't work as a musical number. Compare this to Part of Your World. Part of Your World is a song that takes place after Ariel's obsession with the surface world has been established, and is meant to show the depth of her fascination and alienation. It's a culmination of the previous parts of the movie, and is meant to help the viewer truly understand what Ariel is going through on a deeper, more personal level than what has already been presented. Surface Pressure doesn't work in the same way because it's the surface level aspects of Louisa's problems. What Else Can I Do has a similar issue. From its simple chords to the backing vocals to its cliché key change, it feels like it was written more with the radio in mind than Isabella. It's not a particularly bad song, but it suffers from the same problem where the lyrics lack nuance and introspection. I mean, Isabella literally says,
So much hype behind my smile.
There's not much room for subtlety. And even though Mirabelle is present in the song, she doesn't do much more than ad-lib rather than have a dialogue with her sister.
Wait, bring it in, bring it in. Good talk, bring it in, bring it in.
Which, again, is fine in a pop song, but that's not the purpose this song is meant to fulfill. Encanto can sometimes feel like a story with songs thrown in, as opposed to a story where the songs help explain it. We Don't Talk About Bruno is an interesting case. It does have a more traditional Broadway song structure, with a short refrain as opposed to a chorus and an ensemble cast. The song structure is looser, allowing each character to tell their story and for the lyrics to come and go more freely as the song builds up. And that's the song that went to number 1. It's still only one of 2 Disney animated film songs to make it to number 1, and lasted there longer than the other. Sure, it was during an absolute dead time in pop music, but make of that what you will. The point is that the Encanto soundtrack overall shows a trend towards more pop-style song structures and content for Disney. Where did this change start? Disney isn't actually as much of a stranger to pop music as you think. Starting with Aladdin, most Disney musicals have had a chart bait song. These are songs which resemble a more contemporary song structure with lyrics that are more vague. They can be more easily removed from the context of the movie. From the 90s, these songs would be A Whole New World, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, Colors of the Wind, and Go the Distance. All these songs charted. In fact, Whole New World is the other Disney animated song to hit number 1. However, these songs were limited to 1 per movie, and the songs still told crucial parts of their respective stories. They were important for their characters, providing turning points in their narratives and establishing themes. I can't say the same about the songs in Encanto. I want to say this started with Tangled, but that was still a solid Broadway-style soundtrack. Sure, it tried out some of the pop-style sounds of the time, with its opening track resembling an early Taylor Swift song, but it still held to a Broadway structure. I think you can point to a Patient Zero, though. Frozen. Frozen's chart-based song was Let It Go, which absolutely annihilated everything around it in popularity. It peaked at number 5 on the charts, and the charts were absolutely saturated at that time. I know for many of you, this song was absolutely inescapable, but bear with me and try listening to it with fresh ears. Structurally, this is as straightforward a pop song as you could get. Verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. Not only that, but check out the chords on the chorus. G, D with an F sharp in the bass, E minor 7, C add 9. Simplify that, G, D, E minor, C. Now put it down 7 steps, C, G, A minor, F. Sound familiar? It's the pop song chord progression. You've heard it 1,000 times before. Hundreds of pop songs have successfully used it. However, there actually is a story to both the song instrumentally and lyrically. It starts soft and builds up, from nervous to triumphant, and we're able to get insight into Elsa as a character, even if it's not particularly deep, and it's done in a way that a lot of people ended up relating to. People have used Let It Go as a metaphor for coming out, or for dealing with mental illness, or for just being true to yourself after having to hide a part of yourself for so long. I think what sets it apart from Surface Pressure is that it's trying to tell a cohesive narrative. It's simple yet effective thanks to Idina Menzel's legendary vocals. It represents an intersection between pop music and Broadway music.
Our particular tradition integrates music that has something to do with the culture we're living in, something to do with the popular song, and not another kind of song that's purely theatrical. So I'm not telling story through pop music.
The story is told through how Elsa uses her powers, all culminating in her building an ice castle as she starts this new stage of her life. It still works as a piece in a musical and stays true to its setting because it is telling the story. The success of Let It Go certainly caught Disney's attention. I'm sure they wanted nothing more than to capture that lightning in a bottle again, and they definitely tried it. Moana's How Far I'll Go is an even simpler song, and the chords are good old friends now playing in the open. The song is successful in being a turning point in the story, but is rather one note. I also have a lot of issues with the lyricism, but that's for another time, ? Moana didn't hit nearly the same numbers as Frozen did, though. Maybe that's why for Encanto they doubled down on chart-bait songs. They didn't want just one Let It Go. What I find interesting is that We Don't Talk About Bruno is the song that made it to number 1. Why would that song hit number 1 as opposed to Surface Pressure or What Else Can I Do? Theoretically, the pop songs should have been the ones to dominate radio and streaming. Both songs were very well received in their own right. Is it just that Bruno is the better song? That's subjective, but it may point to what audiences want out of Disney, whether they realize it or not. Solid, Broadway-style songs. It's what Disney is known for and what makes them stand out. Bruno is a distinct and catchy song. I'm not sure it will go down in history as one of the great Disney songs, but it will certainly go down as one of the most notable in the past 15 years. I just don't think Surface Pressure or What Else Can I Do will have the same impact. I know a lot of people connected with them, but they just don't tell a story in the same way a Broadway-style song can, and telling a story is so crucial in a musical. I'm not the first person who's mentioned how Encanto felt like a story with music videos interrupting it. I really hope that Disney doesn't continue down this route for future movies, but Wish has me worried. Unlike its predecessors, Wish will not have any involvement from a musical theater professional for its soundtrack. Instead, Disney chose Julia Michaels, a pop song writer, and Benjamin Rice, a pop song producer. These are both very talented people, but I'm curious as to how they'll handle a Disney soundtrack. We've heard 3 songs from them so far, and the reception has not been particularly warm. Selecting them feels like Disney is doubling down on making songs that will chart well as opposed to songs that will tell a narrative, which is concerning. The animated musical is a style of storytelling I hold close to my heart, and I hate to see it be deconstructed by corporate interest. But with the current state of Disney, it wouldn't shock me in the slightest. It's safe to say that modern Disney doesn't seem to understand what the Disney Renaissance was built off of. Those movie soundtracks were successful because they resonated with audiences, because we felt what the characters were going through and connected to that ourselves. Disney wants to keep doing that, but in a superficial way based on mass appeal and easy gimmicks. I'm hoping for the best for Wish's soundtrack, but it's not looking good. Even if it is all pop songs, maybe at least they'll be great pop songs. All that matters, in the end, is telling the story.